Hi everyone, it's Sandy and today I'm filming my October and November wrap up. I'll be talking about all the books that I read within the past 2 months. I ended up not filming an October wrap up because the end of October and all throughout November was just really busy. So I decided that I might as well just combine both wrap ups because I haven't really read many books in November anyways. The month of November is still not over yet. I'm still in the middle of an audiobook which I'm pretty sure I will finish before the end of the month, but I just wanted to start filming this anyways. So in October I read 6 books. The first one is What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli. This book takes place in New York City following Arthur and Ben. Arthur has recently moved to New York City for the summer because of an internship, and one day he meets Ben at a post office. Ben has recently broken up with his boyfriend, so he was at the post office trying to mail all the things back to him. Arthur and Ben have this really meet cute moment, but then they get separated and they don't have each other's contact information. So part of the story is Arthur and Ben trying to find each other, and when they do find each other, they're trying to figure out whether they were meant to be or not. I was really excited to get into it because I really like Adam Silvera's books and I really like Becky Albertalli's books, so to have one written by the both of them is just amazing. Even though that this book did have a bit of a slow start, I still really enjoyed it. I really love seeing Arthur and Ben's relationship develop, and I just thought that they were super cute. Arthur is gay, he's Jewish, and he also has ADHD, and Ben is gay and Puerto Rican. The book is told in dual point of views, and sometimes I would confuse their point of views with one another just because I feel like Adam and Becky have a really similar writing style. But I really like seeing Arthur and Ben interact with each other. I love all the references to Dear Evan Hansen and Hamilton especially. Another thing that I really liked about the book are the parents. I just really love that they were included in the book. I love how supportive they were of both Arthur and Ben. In a lot of YA books, parents aren't really in the picture, or they just aren't shown or mentioned frequently, but I do think that Arthur and Ben's parents had a very strong presence in the book, and I really like seeing them included. One thing I was really interested about the book was seeing how it would end. As you may know, Adam Silvera is known for his bittersweet endings, and Becky is definitely known for a happy ending. I wasn't really sure how the story was going to wrap up, but I thought it was just a really satisfying end. It might not have been the ending that I wanted, but I thought that the ending was really fitting, and I just really liked how the story wrapped up overall. So I would give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books that I read, I'm just going to talk about them at the same time, even though I didn't technically read them back to back. But these books are The Hidden Oracle and The Dark Prophecy by Riordan. This is the first and second book in the Trials of Apollo series. I actually listened to these books as an audiobook, and I thought that they were fantastic audiobooks. The narrator was just amazing. Prior to reading this one, it's been a while since I was super excited to always jump back into an audiobook and listen to it. Every time I had to stop listening to it, I was thinking about the next time I would be able to listen to it again. So I'm just gonna hold up the first book, but if you don't know what the Trials of Apollo series is about, it follows the god Apollo who was punished by Zeus, and he is sent back to Earth to live as a mortal. I think this is a really great series to listen to as an audiobook because the narrator just did an amazing job and really brought out Apollo's sense of humor. Apollo was a wonderful protagonist. He's hilarious and snarky, sometimes selfish and conceited, but he's so lovable, and I just really like that about his character. With this book, I really like that it took place mostly at Camp Half-Blood, and I really like the dynamic between Apollo and Meg, and also Apollo and his children. It's a really strange dynamic because Apollo is old, but he's in a 16-year-old body and he's interacting with his children who are teenagers, so it is kind of strange and kind of weird at first, but I think it's really fun to read about. It's also really refreshing that the story didn't include a romance. I gave the first book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I would give the second book a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first. I think I really enjoyed the first more just because of the setting. I also like how complex the plot got in this book and the introduction of new characters. I really enjoyed seeing that, and I can't wait to see where the story goes in the third book. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next audiobook that I listened to is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. This book takes place in Victorian era London following a girl named Audrey Rose who is interested in forensics. So Audrey ends up getting drawn into the investigation of the serial killer Jack the Ripper. I was really excited to get into this because I've heard amazing things about it, but unfortunately it was a bit of a letdown. I predicted who the killer was from the beginning because I had this gut feeling that this person was going to be the serial killer. I just wasn't as as interested in the story or as engaged. Without going into spoilers, this story just felt like something I've read before, mostly because of the time setting and some of the similar circumstances of another book series. Once I predicted who the killer was, the further I got into the story, the less excited I was to continue reading it. And while I love Audrey Rose's resistance to gender norms, the characters in general just felt really dull to me. This story had major insta lust, which I don't mind, but I wish there could have been more of a development of the friendship between the two main characters. So I ended up giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars, and I probably won't continue on with the rest of the series. I don't know, maybe. But if you have read the second book, then let me know what you think and whether or not I should continue on with it. The next book that I read is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I didn't like Holly Black's Coldest Girl in Coal Town and The Darkest Part of the Forest, so I was really hesitant to go into this book, but I've just heard so many amazing things about this book. I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised by this book, and I did end up really enjoying it. Right from the beginning, I thought the prologue was fantastic. It really hooked me into the story and made me want to continue reading. I do wish that the fairy courts and politics were explained more, because I find myself pretty confused and lost at times. I really liked how complex Jude's character was. She has her flaws and she's unapologetic about her actions. I do feel like there was a bit of an unnecessary romance in this book. It felt really random, kind of out of the blue for me. And I'm not talking about the main romance that hopefully will develop in the second book, which I'm looking forward to. The other romance was just like, what? Just did not make sense to me, and I just did not get it. I still don't really know how I feel about Carden's character. I really didn't like the way he treated Jude for most of the book, but he's also a really intriguing character and I really want to know more about him. So I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely a good book, but I didn't love it enough to give it a higher rating. And the last audiobook that I listened to in October is Starry Eyes by Jenn Bennett. So this book follows Zori and Lennon, who were best friends and had a falling out. They're no longer best friends, and they do everything that they can to avoid one another. One day Zori goes on a group camping trip with one of her other friends, and Lennon ends up being there. Things on the camping trip don't go well, and Zori and Lennon end up being stranded together alone. That's all I'm going to say about the synopsis of the story. I really enjoyed this book a lot more than Alex Approximately. I just really liked Zori and Lennon's relationship. I really like the trope of ex-best friends or best friends falling in love with one another. I just think it's really cute, and I just like that they have this history with one another. One thing about the book that really stuck out to me is the non-traditional family relationships. Lennon has 2 moms, and Zori's family consists of her dad and her stepmom. Her mom has passed away when she was younger. I absolutely loved Zori's relationship with her stepmother, Joy. Joy is also Korean American. Their love and support for one another really comes off the page. I also really love the sex positivity in this book. While some of the misunderstandings between Zori and Lennon could be frustrating, I really enjoyed seeing them work through all these feelings. So like I mentioned earlier, the whole camping trip was supposed to be a group camping trip, and things just kind of went downhill. There was some drama between Zori and other characters, and I just felt like that was a little bit unnecessary, and it was just used to add drama to the story, and it was left unfinished too, so you don't know where that storyline goes, but you kind of have an idea. But anyways, I ended up rating this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely recommend this book. I think it's a really great contemporary. So moving on to November, I was able to listen to 2 audiobooks, and they were City of Lost Souls and City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. The audiobooks are pretty long, so it definitely took me a while to get through them. These are the 5th and 6th book in the Mortal Instruments series. I love the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and they'll always be a favorite of mine, but I don't think I enjoyed these books as much as I did the first time reading it. However, for City of Heavenly Fire, there are chapters told in Emma and Julian's point of view that sets up the story for the Dark Artifices, and when I first read this book, I honestly didn't care for Emma and Julian, and I just wanted to read from other characters' point of views. But now that there are 2 books out for the Dark Artifices and the 3rd book is coming out really soon, I just loved reading from Emma and Julian's point of view in this book, and just seeing how things started and seeing all the shit that Julian has to go through. Reading this book is like the beginning of everything, and that just makes me so sad for him. Julian is 12 when the story begins, and he has already gone through so much, and The Dark Artifices takes place 5 years after this book ends. I also really enjoyed seeing the relationships between all the characters develop within these last 2 books. And the last book that I'm going to be talking about in this video is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas, the 7th and final book in the Throne of Glass series. I honestly spent most of November reading this book because this almost 1,000 page book took me 3 weeks to read. I just forgot a lot of what happened in the previous books, and I feel like I would have enjoyed this book a lot more if I actually reread the series. Even though I wanted to reread the books before getting into this one, I also didn't want to because there are 6 books prior to this one and they're big books. So I definitely think that my reading experience of this book wasn't as great just because I forgot a lot of what happened. I forgot a lot of who the minor characters were. What I do like about this book is just being able to see the main character's journey come to an end. The main character has gone through so much, and I just really enjoyed seeing her character grow throughout the series. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I still enjoyed it, but like I mentioned earlier, my reading experience could have been better if I actually remembered who was who and what was happening. So those are all the books that I read in October and November. I probably will finish like 1 or 2 more books in November, but I'll talk about that in my December wrap up. If you read any of the books that I talked about, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!